Welcome back. If you're new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. Joe and I discuss all kinds of stuff from pop culture to political. Today's episode, we're discussing America in distress and how laws are being forged to save our republic and some trying to tear it down. Well, Joe, you ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back once again. Before we get started, make sure and smash that like button, subscribe to Outspoken, share the show with everyone you know, and hit the bell icon to get updated whenever we upload a new episode. All right, Joe, here we go on America in distress. How you feeling?
So recently, state officials have enacted laws aimed at restricting the presence of LGBTQ messaging and symbols within government buildings, framing these measures as efforts to maintain neutrality in public spaces. But in response, Salt Lake City and Boise, of course, have strategically integrated elements of the LGBTQ pride flag into their official city flag designs. So while this move allows them to circumvent legal limitation, it also raises concerns about the shifting definition of inclusivity and the broader implications of such adaptations. So critics argue that these efforts blur the lines between genuine representation and political maneuvering, further fueling debate over governmental influence and cultural identity and public expression. And then it goes on and on and on. But to what ends is what I ask.
Yeah, well, meanwhile, after watching congressional hearings, I've observed a troubling trend across both political sides, though it often appears more hostile on the left, of course. Rather than fostering meaningful discourse, these hearings have increasingly become a platform for politicians to spread misinformation and score political points. This shift raises concerns about the integrity of political debate and the role of elected officials in shaping public perception.
And see, here's the problem that I have, Jay, and that's concerning just as much as it is city officials circumventing state laws. They're finding loopholes. They're finding, and many could argue to the point that, well, the Trump administration is also finding loopholes. Well, the only reason I feel, and of course is just my opinion, and that's all that matters, is that Congress and the people who are against Trump, which at this point is not even the left, it's just people against Trump,
right,
are doing everything they can to make it difficult for the president to do his job. Now, you look back to 100%. Obama, you look back to Clinton, you look back to all these past presidents who did exactly the same thing. Obama was one of the worst when it came to deportation and following due process. He didn't do it. But no one lost their mind. No one was picketing. No one was building human walls. No one was doing anything to say, oh my God, no one cared, right? Because at the end of the day, he was doing what we really wanted him to do. Even us on the conservative side, we wanted to protect our borders. But
at one time, that wasn't a political thing. That wasn't. I take that back. Scratch that. It was not a partisan thing. Everybody said, yeah, we need a secure border, right? We shouldn't have possibly dangerous illegals coming through the southern border.
Well,
this is the thing that's been politicized in the wrong side to me, is that they have said, well, Trump said that it's only thieves and drug dealers and murderers coming over. No, that's not true. There are, good people. But the problem is, if you don't have a proper vetting system, you are going to let in a bunch of, and we all know the bad guys always take advantage of good systems.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Always.
Correct. And here's the thing. Clinton ran with this for his election. Obama ran on this for his election. Trump ran on this for his election. Yeah. It was all
Hillary talked about it.
Hillary talked about it. In fact, Hillary was probably a little bit more harsh and stern about prosecuting criminals about it. So the thing is, it's no longer about what's best for our country. It's what's best for me, as long as it didn't involve Donald Trump making those decisions. That's a horrible way to look at things, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, you have a person who lacks any type of good communication skills as a president. I'm just going to be blunt about it. The guy is horrible at speaking because he's just so blunt about it. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't pour a little bit of chocolate.
Non-political.
He's very non-political and very business-like. Like, when you think of that movie,
You're fired.
When you think of that movie, Wolves of Wall Street, you think of this.
Oh yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
These guys are just going after it, just boom, 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 and that's what Trump is. Right? Trump's a businessman. He's going after things that he said he was going to do with no remorse. And politicians, they say they're going to do it, but they don't act on it, right? They'll go like, well, we don't have the funds. And you got Trump saying, well, we're going to pull money from here. We're going to take this money. We're going to get this. Well, you know what? In fact, I'm going to have this guy come in here and start looking at all these bills because we don't need to pay $2.5 million for a bathroom in San Francisco. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like for a public
One
restroom.
bathroom.
Yeah. He's cleaning up things because he's trying to get money because Congress won't give it to him because they don't, again, the bipartisan things is going on. So that's the biggest concern. These city officials who think have this power, and I actually do because they're doing it, to circumvent state laws is very terrifying. Because then you go into the things like Katie Hobbs, who passes a bill that says law enforcement cannot assist in ICE deportations, right? They can't call ICE. They can't do anything like that. And so now you're circumventing what the president has promised the American people, who was voted by the American people by majority. And he won both. So why, this is what I don't understand. You have a politician, local politicians, whether it be city, state, and they are doing not the will of the people, but the will of themselves, right? Like what benefits me? Trump being the president for my party doesn't benefit me. So I'm going to do what benefits my party. Not what the people have asked for, not what the people have voted for, but what I feel is the right thing to do. And that's my concern is if the city official or state officials say, hey, this is America. This is Utah. We're going to wave our state flag how it's supposed to be waved, and how it's supposed to be flown with the colors that it represents in the state that it represents, with whatever image that it represents. That's our flag. Every flag has their little thing and has their little motto. And no, cities say, well, we're going to change it here in Salt Lake City. And we're going to do this. Joseph Smith is turning in his grave right now. Let me tell you, it's just unnecessary for them to do that. And I don't, and I think that that's just exactly what's happening in Congress on both houses. That's exactly what's happening. What's happening in local cities is happening in our federal government, because you got the two parties and one's like, no, I don't like them. And it kind of feeds into what you're talking about, right? About those congressional hearings. Well, they call, I forget his name, but he's in charge of the Treasury, that open gay guy, right? That has kids and married to man. And he's like proud of it, which is cool. No. I have nothing against it. I forget his name. But bro, when you said that, it reminded me, because I was watching this on C-SPAN. Yeah, I still watch that. And they were just attacking him. They wouldn't give him time to answer. So when he did try to answer, it was, what was her name? Crockett, that black congresswoman. She started like asking these questions. He went to answer them. She's all, well, by cutting these programs or the vital needs of the infants being thought about. I'm like, we worried about those. He goes, oh, that doesn't impact the E4, blah, blah. And she goes, I claim my time. It was a yes or no answer. Just a yes or no. And like, well, she's trying to explain it to you. You know what I mean? And when you cut them off, clearly, and they know what they're doing, because they can't give a yes or no answer. So yes, we are cutting programs, but no, not important programs, right? So they want to be open as much as they can be, but they don't let them speak on it. Right. They're like, yeah, we're cutting these and these, but yes or no. And then when they try to explain, I reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman, and I'm like, oh my God, it happened to Kash Patel.
She used to run an HOA at one time.
Clearly. Kash Patel, happened to him. Same thing. They were asking all these questions, and oh my God, they're like, this one congressman goes, do you even know what the Constitution is?
To Kash? Yeah,
he's all, well, as being the first FBI director that has, what do you say, public defender background, he goes, I'm pretty sure I know what it is. In fact, I probably know more than any other FBI director did, because he was an attorney. Yeah. He's a public defender, right? And so he just kind of shut that guy up, but he went to the next question, of course, and I reclaim my time. That's all they do, bro. Like they'll sit up there and they're like, I have one question. And before they ask the question, you know what they do? Well, you did this, and then you took this away, and then this had happened, and then now you're claiming this. You fired people. Did you not fire people from the January 6th? Did you not suspend blah, blah, blah? And he's all, no, I didn't. Like, no, you did. And then like he'll talk, well, anyway, you suspended this person, and he's all, I follow the law. If they broke the law and what we stand for as the FBI, they're going to get suspended or fired. I follow the law. That's what I do. He kept like just killing it. But the point is, if you ever watch these, and I know you do because you brought it up, it's a platform, bro. It's a platform to gain political clout for their party, to get them points, and they don't allow them to speak freely about it. Now, does the right do it? Yeah, absolutely, but not to the extent where they're like hating on them, unless it's a bold lie, right? Like if they're trying to confirm someone, like, hey, did you say this? No, I've never said. And then they bring out this big old poster board from their social media. Huh? It looks like you did.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, man, well, they caught you in a lie. You can't be running for a judge and be lying. These are things that are destroying, I think, and slowly dismantling our republic.
You know, a couple of guys that I talking about folks that would get on somebody, and there's a lot of good examples of that, but on the conservative side, somebody I really miss in Congress is Trey Gowdy, dude. That guy was on fire when he was asking questions, and man, they couldn't get anything past him. The other guy that's always really great is Jason Chaffetz. I don't know his last name, how to pronounce it perfectly, but anyways, yeah, he's really great too. But yeah, there's a lot of nonsense that goes in there, on in there, right? And what is that deal called? The filibuster, where they just kind of waste a bunch of time and stuff like that. And I get it, what it's for, but at the same time, there's so many, like, I think we've found out by now how wasteful the government is, right? Yeah. How wasteful it is. With Doge going on, we've learned all this money that has went to completely stupid stuff. And, most people, the folks that don't like Elon, if they knew, and that's fine. Everybody can have their opinion on a person or whatever, because he was their Lord and Savior not too long ago for electric cars. And,
how quickly things change, bro. Yeah. I don't even.
Well, opinion changes based on who tells you to have an opinion, right? And these are the same people that were wearing masks out in public all by themselves during the whole COVID stuff, and some of them still are. So you can tell they're pretty easy to manipulate into their opinion that they're told to have. But everybody can see that there has been a lot of nonsense in spending and all kinds of crap and different organizations and things that are just stupid. I mean, the study of like some kind of frog or toad or something like that in Africa, and its stress tolerance and variance depending on, rainfall during a certain time of year, and, hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, and in some cases, billions of dollars spent on just crap like this. So when you see that government has that kind of time to waste our kind of money, then you see them in the chambers wasting a bunch of time with the filibusters. And then also, this is my biggest gripe with them, is wasting time and money and everything else with doing multi-bills. It's always a scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing. Like the Democrats, I remember this very specifically. We had a bill and the Republicans said they didn't want it anymore. It was going to shut the border down and this and that. The bill wasn't going to fully shut the border down. And the other thing, it was packed with a bunch of money to Ukraine and a bunch of other crap.
And it was going to allow like 2 billion immigrants.
It was so stupid. So it's like, listen, make one bill and vote on that one bill, and don't put a bunch of other fluff or nonsense in it. And that's the thing that is disturbing to a lot of people. And I think on both sides,
and they don't understand it. They don't understand that either.
And then they are able to, because they didn't really want to pass it. So they knew that they would get pushback, and then they could say, oh, look, see, they don't want to do it. Politics, this is the sad part about politics, is that the border became a political thing. And whether we want to believe it or not, did he want to wait until he was in office to be able to fix the border and not have Joe Biden do it at the end of his?
Right.
Or was Joe Biden, and when I say him or I say Trump, I mean the whole administration at that, that moment and then this moment, was Joe Biden trying to, keep everything going and make it a nightmare for when they did get in, they wouldn't be able to close it down and all those kind of things. So who knows? But they were using people, physical people, whether you want to say us as the American public and the possibility of more crime and all that kind of stuff, and the people that were actually the folks coming across the border, using them as political pawns, right? Which sucks, man, because all of us want to stop the criminals and the drug cartel guys and all that. That's a given.
Correct.
But all of us feel bad, regardless if we let people in or not. We don't want innocent families and children and stuff harmed at our border, period. Right? There's nobody on the left or right that wants that. And it's just crazy that is used as, well, the Republicans just, want children to die in cages and all this. It's like, nah, that's not the case. And the person that built the cages and caused the most problems with that was Obama. So, and here's the thing, though, I totally wouldn't blame Obama because there was a problem at the time. They just didn't execute it very well, but they were trying to fix an issue, right?
Right. But they separated families. Trump doesn't do that. Trump doesn't.
Well, yeah. And the separation of families was kind of a nutty thing too, because you have these guys coming with a child, and the child that's not my dad or uncle or anybody that I know. And it was cartel. So they were separating these kids apart, and I mean, it was a mess, dude. And it still is a mess, even though,
it's a more manageable mess.
Oh yeah, definitely more manageable. But yeah, these flags and everything are crazy, that, they're trying to make the pride flag like a part of the state. What do you call it? Hierarchy or whatever you would say. I don't know I'm sure you heard, it was like last week, Texas has banned Sharia law as a law in anywhere in Texas. So those kind of things are great, because if you think about it, you have these outside forces, right, that are coming in, and who takes on Sharia law as part of their daily thing? Well, it's a bunch of people that live in a bunch of countries that are crud countries, like terrible countries, right?
Crud, like poop crud?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, garbage countries, right? What does Trump call them? Shithole countries. and the thing is that it's like,
man,
it's like you're coming here for what? You hate it so much. Why are you coming here? Oh, you're coming here, and now you're like, well, the system's terrible. Well, you came here because it has better opportunity. So obviously the system's good, and you're going to try to turn it into the system that you came from, that is a shithole country. Yeah.
Well, look what they did to the UK. You know what I mean? They're like running and taking over there.
I mean, Europe is a prime example of what we don't want to have happen in the United States.
That does that, plays that kind of thing at
New
Minneapolis, wasn't it?
New York has now allowed it. Yeah, isn't it Michigan? Isn't it Dearborn? Isn't it Dearborn, Michigan? And
I don't know. Was it when I was there? Wasn't that? They didn't have that. No, I mean, but I could see Dearborn. I could see Dearborn happening.
And then I think somewhere in Michigan, but New York just passed that whole deal where they can. So here's the crazy thing. So you think about England. Now this steps away from us for a second, but they've been arresting Christians in England, right? Or in Europe. Let's just call Europe as a whole, for praying.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you saw the one deal.
That's like preaching out there in the street.
Yet they passed this deal where they can do the call to prayer for the Muslims and scream it all over. And these people have a lot of money. Can't they get better speakers? They use these horns
I think they're on volume 10, and those speakers were meant for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you go to like Walmart and get those speakers with the little lights inside of them, they don't go to 10. You got to go like an 8 or 9.
They sound like a Walmart cashier calling for, hey, we need someone over aisle 8 over here.
Oh, like man, man, I'm not one to make fun of other religions, but here's the thing, and you're right. Do you remember? Do you remember those videos I used to send you, and that one Texas female politician?
Whoa, be careful,
bro. Let me finish. You can't cut me off half story, and then people not think they're bad pictures. Anyway, the video of that chick that was running for public service in Texas. She always had the AR, and she was running, and she had a concealed carry.
Yeah.
Well, they were protesting at the state capitol in Texas about that law, and she goes, "Dude, all you see is and you see this person coming from the back, all covered up." And you're thinking, oh, they're going to talk about some more of this, right? Nah, bro, she peels it off. It's her. Yeah. And she says that you guys are going to like a false god praying to a rock.
Islam is the religion of rape, incest, and pedophilia, where they bow down to a stupid rock and a false prophet. I will never let you feel lost.
And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, damn. Yeah. I'm like, she went off the chisel, bro. She went off. And I'm thinking, all right, you know what? Hey, she loves her state, and she's representing it, and she wants to represent it. But no, this is a problem, and we've talked about this in the past, Jay. And I hate to say it, we make fun of it now. We're talking and joking because that's what we do. The problem here is that this, kind of like race, remember we discussed race last time and how that changes or it's brought to light, and now all people see is race when asking a question, when this happens with the LGBTQ community. This is why, like, the OG gay people, the ones that fought for equal rights for marriage and adoption and just things of natural things, right? They're over it. because how much of this propaganda really are you going to keep throwing out there on people? Like,
Yeah.
if you have a problem with me talking about God and Jesus Christ and Christianity, and you're like, dude, keep that at home. Don't come here with that stuff. But then you turn around and you're okay with them talking about having Pride Month and then walking the streets and parades with naked men and just inappropriate attire, but it's okay because it represents that community. Like, where's the line? Like, at what point do you stop it? At what point do you start saying, you know what? There's people that don't approve of this, and it's going to create negativity that's going to turn into hate. They don't listen to Yoda, bro. You know, Yoda said this about the dark side, and no one listens to him. And so I feel that this is the same thing that's happening in society, whether it's those politicians that, and damn it, the liberals don't get it. The left doesn't get it. This is the same stuff that played around when elections came this last time, and the people got sick of them playing these games up there, and they voted Trump back in. They're doing the same thing again. They don't stop. They don't listen to the people, right? Which is who voted for whoever's there. These people are going to start getting voted out. That's what's going to happen because they're sick of their propaganda. You know, it's funny, Jay, and this is a theme. We've lost our touch as Americans. Let's be honest. Let's just say it. We used to be a driving force in the world. When people look for anything, any type of advancement, any type of world police, who would they look for first? Who would they look to?
Us.
Correct. And that's
The U.S. of A.
the U.S. of A.
America.
Right, America. And that's who they always came to. We were that force because you know what? We had our problems, but we dealt with them. We fixed them. You know what I mean? We issued. You know what they call a Mexican that goes down to Mexico? An American. You know what they call a black person that goes down to Africa? An American.
An American, yeah.
You know what they call a white person that goes to Europe to go visit? An American. We're not identified by color anywhere.
No.
But in our own damn country.
Yeah, that's
We identify
totally correct.
We identify
what?
ourselves by color, where the rest of the world identify us from where we come from.
So let me
America.
let me ask you a question.
Okay.
So I'm gonna move to Mexico and just have my Social Security check sent down there when I retire. At what point do I become a Mexican?
You don't.
Let's
I mean,
move
you
up
could
to
get-
let's move up to Canada, man. You and I, or let's move to Europe. Let's go to England. When do we become English?
We don't. We're Americans.
We don't. But the thing is people come from other countries and they take the oath here and they become Americans, regardless if they've been here since birth, since after birth, or a week ago, and they just became American citizens.
Yep.
Right? It's the only country in the world that accepts you just who you are. Right? And
Except our
now-
citizens.
Now, there is a little bit of cohesiveness with the American way of life, right? And this has, again, you hit it right on the head. There's no color for America. People are like, well,
Red, white, and blue, baby. That's the only color
red, white, and
we
blue is
have.
the only colors. Yeah, you got it on your hat there.
Hell yeah, America.
There's no specific color or anything for people in the United States. And I know there's a lot of stuff that's like, well, it's the white male patriarchy, blah, 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 this and this and that. And it's like, that's not the case. You know, so if you think about when the first people were here in the United States, before it was the United States, the first people in Plymouth Rock, who were they? You know, some English, Dutch people and
It was
such.
Juan.
Yeah, and then you had down in Florida, you had Spanish and all that. So one of the oldest streets in the United States is down in Florida, right? And I forget the name of the street. I totally want to visit there though, because it's really cool. The historic thing. It's one of the oldest buildings in the United States, right? That's down there that was built way, 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 way back. So my point to this is that we have a country that is what's that?
Nothing.
That's a whole different episode. But we have a country, and you've heard this word before, we are such a melting pot of different cultures and everything. Like, here's a great question. What is American food?
God. Okay, here. You know what? I'm glad you asked
Everything.
that question. Let me tell you.
Orange chicken? Because that's not a thing. That's people here will say, well, I love Chinese food. What do you like? Orange chicken. We'll go to China and ask for orange chicken. They're going to laugh you out, right? And things like pizza. You know, pizza's in one little specific spot of Italy. It's not all over Italy, right? But we took it and made it our own from the culture that's there. What is some of the Mexican foods that are here, right? Taco Bell has invented like 50 different things that never existed in Mexico.
Yeah.
But the Mexican people that are in this country, the Italian people that are in this country, the Chinese people that are in this country, all the people from different cultures have brought their cultural ideas, brought them here and made them different to fit what is going to work here in the United States.
Bro, but you see, the thing is, you hit the nail right on the head, because that happens. I mean, every culture does that, right? Like Mexicans, we take from other cultures, right? Some of the foods that we have came from Lebanon, right? Because we have a big Lebanese population in Mexico. But like fajitas, you don't go to Mexico and order fajitas. They're like, what the hell's a fajita, right? Or a chimichanga.
A chimichanga.
It's a
That's
Texan
Deadpool's
thing.
favorite food, man.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
But
So
and
Tex-Mex
tachos and nachos. Like
nachos.
What the
Did you
hell
say
nachos?
Nachos.
Hard shell tacos.
I remember a guy named Nacho.
I bet you did. Hard shell tacos. None of that stuff is from Mexico. We take here's the other thing. This is one I heard a foreign guy from Europe. He's a foreigner who came here on vacation. And this is what he said. In Europe, to travel 30 minutes to go to another country an hour is like, that's a lot for them. Where you come to the US, it takes you 4 hours to go. But there's 50 states. And they said that every state is unique in its own way. And that's the whole purpose. And that's the whole point about America. If you go to every state, whether it's the South, whether it's the East Coast, the West Coast, whatever you go, Midwest, we have Dutch communities, we have Asian communities, we have different type of Hispanic communities, German communities, just a variety of different, we got Little China up in San Francisco. We have all kinds of things. We got, Olivera Street in Los Angeles. You got everything. There's
probably best Mexican food in the.
You'll find this mix of cultures everywhere in the United States, because this is a country of immigrants. I agree. We are.
Heck yeah.
We definitely are.
Every single one of us is from an immigrant somewhere in our past. Somewhere.
Yeah. Like my parents were immigrants. Well, my dad was. My mom, she says she's an immigrant because she said Texas is its own country. So she's an immigrant of Texas, right?
The Lone Star State.
The Lone Star State. So and those Texans are so proud. But, the point being, like you said, there's different cultures everywhere. Like Mexican food in California, way different than Mexican food in Texas, way different than Mexican food in New Mexico, and way different than Mexican food in Arizona, right? Because we have more of a Sonoran culture.
Correct.
Yeah. California has more of a like a Jalisco, Central Mexico kind of flavor, right?
Right.
And New Mexico has just its own because it's mixed in with Native American, right? You have those fried bread, and you have just a bunch of different things. And of course you have Texas, which created a lot of like the fajitas, the chimichangas. Why? Because in America, we like to deep fry everything. You know what I mean?
So they took the South and Mexican food and blended it and made a killer combo. And now it has its own name, Tex-Mex, right?
Right, correct.
And they have their own music, Tex-Mex music too.
Right.
Which is like its own identity, 100%.
It's like Selena said, bro. Selena's dad said, right? We're two Americans for the Mexicans, and we're two Mexicans for the Americans.
Yeah.
We're like, we have no place, bro.
We have no place. But that's so great, though. I mean, you think about places like Louisiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Much different, man. Most of the people from, French,
the Bayou.
Yeah, because when you had a lot of those folks coming across, they would come down and they would get into like off the ships down there. So that's why you had such a big French influence down there.
Correct.
Also, and that's why they called it the Louisiana Purchase, because the French was
You're going to say the French.
The French was from Louisiana all the way up through Canada. There's like that big stripe in the middle.
We even named our fries after them, the French fries.
We hated England so much. We're like, we're going to call your stupid chips French fries. Now it's a joke if you think about it, but it's just funny.
God. But you're right. There's just so many, and the thing about that is, here's the thing. People say, oh, white people have no culture. But you know what white people culture is? It's American culture. And that goes with white Americans. You got to say that because they're from here. There's white people in Ireland. There's white people in the UK. There's white people in Spain. There's white people everywhere, right? There's white people in Mexico. But we have to be specific because people get confused. So the white Americans share a culture with Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Indian Americans, every person that's here has brought a little bit of their culture into our nation, which makes it great. But here's the thing: we all have we have a culture, right? I mean, I could go back to my heritage, back to Mexico, right? My roots and stuff like that. Aztec warrior, whatever. It doesn't beat the fact that I am American. I was born here. I was raised here. I'm proud to be an American. I wave the American flag before I would ever wave the Mexican flag. Now I wave the Mexican flag when it comes to like soccer games and things like that, right? But when it comes to what I'm proud of is my American culture, right? We're so diverse. People out there to say we're not diverse are just hateful people, right? Because is there bigots here? Absolutely. But there's bigots in the UK. There's bigots in every part of the world. There's bigots in Mexico. They're everywhere. You try to get someone from Central or South America to come through Mexico, they'll beat the crap out of them and send them back, right? Because they don't like immigrants. But it's a bad thing when we do it. But here the thing is that there's a difference between sharing your culture, right, with the state that you're in, which is like Utah, for example, right? Big Mormon state.
Right.
They ain't ashamed to say it. There's temples everywhere. But to share or to adapt into state cultures or into your communities, your sexuality, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. Why would you add sexuality to a flag, to a state flag? You're not marginalized. There's a lot of gay people. You're not marginalized. You know what's marginalized is your sexual orientation forced on the people. We don't want to have that. We don't care what you prefer in the bedroom. Not our problem. We don't care, right? Like, could you imagine if I walked around with like a flag of a JJ or a picture of my shirt, because that's what I'm proud of. That's what I mean? Like, that's so stupid. Like who cares, dude, what you like? Who cares what it is that you represent or whatever? I say the same thing when they wave the Mexican flags. It's like, bro, you're in the wrong country. If you're that proud of Mexico, you got to go back, right? Because you're here. We've opened the doors. Let me tell you something, Jay. And this goes for all races and all nationalities. I've never seen such a proud people than those who have become U.S. citizens. Never have I seen so proud people, more than people that were born here. And that's a sad truth, bro. Sad truth. I see these videos of them coming out from their swearing in with the American flag, doing their dance and, saying, I love America. They could barely speak any English, bro. Yeah. But they took an oath and they pledged their allegiance to America. Mm-hmm. And then you have these people that are born here who's like wearing stupid coverings and saying, down with America, socialism, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, y'all need to have a little taste of that. Y'all need to go and move. Go down to Pakistan, Go down to, Iraq or Iran. Go live over there as a woman, as a gay person. Let me know how that goes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Tell me how your adventure is. Tell me how your 5-star hotel is, and make sure you put it up on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as far as the whole gay thing, we've talked about this.
You gotten so serious when you say gay. I like
quite a bit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm always serious. Why so serious?
Why so serious, Gaben?
So there has been a ton of gay people throughout history, right? I mean, they've been written about in historical books and everything, and they've ran countries before, right? Sometimes they weren't full gay, they were bi, whatever you want it. Who cares about all the titles and all that? Full gay.
Yeah, full gay. I didn't know there was such thing, Jay, but yeah, full gay. I'm in it 100%. I'm going full-time gay.
There was not such a problem until it started involving children, okay? And there wasn't so much of a problem with crime and things that were happening. We don't want people to be criminals and everything, but it became a really big problem when it started involving our children and human trafficking.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
So one of the biggest things is that the youth of today is being completely brainwashed and desensitized and everything to all of this nonsense. So let me ask another question real quick. So you and we start up this whole program, and we're going to have stripper story hour at all the schools. So we're going to have a stripper pole and everything in the classroom, and we're going to bring these strippers in and, dress
from the bada bing.
From the bada bing, bada boom. So we're going to bring them in all scantily clad and have them read to your children. How do you feel about that? They're not gay or anything. They're totally straight, women. We can even do men too. Have them read to your kids.
Chippendales.
With stripper. Yeah. Chippendales. Well, those guys are probably gay.
All male strippers are here, but you know what? You're hitting the nail run ahead, bro, because
everybody out there right now is going, oh no, we wouldn't want strippers reading to our kids.
No.
Oh, really? So you're okay with these demonic men that are dressed as women that look like the devil, wearing all kinds of crap on their face, and they're already mentally messed up, right? So who knows what they're thinking when they look out into that classroom with your children sitting there, little girls and or little boys, want to do disgusting stuff with them. I don't want them anywhere near our kids. Why should, just like Joe said earlier, why should their sexual orientation in the bedroom have anything to do with children in the classroom? Well, we need to get the kids. No, you know what you guys are doing? Listen, I'm at this point that I'm not going to stand down and make excuses for anybody anymore. If you are on the left and you're okay with all of this stuff, then that means you are part of the problem that is trying to desensitize pedophilia, right? And get these people where they are going to be doing disgusting stuff to kids. And I'm 100% against any of that. I don't give a crap about your freedom or anything else like that. We all have freedoms to do things in our own lives, in our own property, and all those kind of things. But when it comes to affecting other people, you don't have that right. And you live under the same laws that the rest of us do. And if I can't pray in school to a Christian God, you're not going to pray to your devilish ways or your devilish God or your homosexual fantasies in front of school kids.
So here's the thing, and I agree with you 100%. I know if you're going to start batting an eye about bringing back prayer to the schools, but okay with trans story time, then clearly you're the problem. And I understand people and inclusivity. We need to include people in our society, and that's fine. Look, if you're trans, great. Dress normal. Come read a book, a normal book, a Dr. Seuss book or something. You know what I mean? But don't dress up in your drag. That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate attire. You're sending little girls home because they have a crop top and it's an appropriate wear for school, but yet you're going to allow a transgender who has, tassels on their damn titties and a short skirt sitting there with high heels, those stripper heels. Like, where's the normality in that? Where's the line? And the thing is, and here's a problem, and we hit on it earlier a little bit, is the problem is that we are normalizing this type of social behavior, right? We are allowing for people to see it more and more, thus being more accepting to the fact that it exists. Now, no one's going to take the fact away that it exists. It does exist, and it has existed. The problem is your introduction to it to our children, right? To our younger children in America. Now, are we being fair and giving them a fair opportunity to grow up and be children and develop skills on their own? Or are we feeding them a bunch of BS that's going to derail them from having a normal childhood, right? And create this dreamlike state for them that everything's beautiful, everything's great, but you're a victim, you're marginalized, fight for your rights. Like, we're creating victims is what we're doing. And we're not creating strong men and strong women. We're creating a bunch of weak people in society and victims, to say the least. And I think it's important that as a society that we start getting away from that victim mentality, because we're not victims. We're one of the greatest and most powerful nations in the world with great opportunities. And for us not to take advantage of those opportunities, that falls on us. Doesn't fall on society. Doesn't fall on who's the person holding the red button in the Oval Office. It's up to us, right? Economies go up and down. It doesn't matter through life. People have survived the Great Depression. People died, but people also survived it. Always talk about the negative things about things. Yes, that we've gone through a lot, but we have sustained ourselves and we've made it through. And, you look back at pictures of during the Great Depression where New York City was just vast emptiness, right? There was no Central Park. There was just tumbleweeds, people living in cardboard boxes and made up shelters, people that lost their jobs, that were selling their own cars, that were selling their children, right, to have money. And look where we're at now. What's New York City look like now, right? And then I feel like we get to these high peaks, these nice, beautiful peaks, and then we just start falling into a valley, slowly back into a valley. And we create this, it's self-driven chaos, which is funny to me, because, like, wait a minute, guys, we have no issues. You're in a free society, drinking your little Starbucks, carrying your JanSport backpack, right? With your $1,000 backpack, fighting for Palestine. You know, I'm like, bro, go to school, get an education, right? Know what's happening, know what kind of war has been driving the Middle East. And they're always at war. There's never a time of peace. This war started back when Jesus was here, right?
Yeah.
And so they're
It's
always
a bad ideology. It's not.
Whatever it is, these children get and both on both sides, man. I'm not happy with the things Israel does. I'm not happy with what Hamas is doing, with things that Hamas does. So there's two very distinct things, right? We look at Israel differently. They're clearly one of our greatest allies, right? But it's also the Holy Land for us Christians, and it means a lot to us. But it doesn't mean we have to agree with what the Jews do, right?
Right.
And we go back to Palestine, right? That never really was theirs, but they gave it to them like, hey, you guys live here, enjoy it, right? But then you have Hamas. I don't agree with Hamas and the terrorist acts that they do, right? But the question is, why doesn't Egypt open the borders to them? They're right next to them.
Right.
Why do they have a wall bigger than the one that Israel does? You know what I mean? Like, what is the problem? And because there's no such thing. But here we are arguing about things that really don't matter to us, right? And the same thing with Ukraine. Hey, we're trying to broker a deal. You don't want it? You want to keep going this war and sucking this money? I'm for like Donald Trump do this and walk away. Walk away. Let him deal with it. If he wants to act like that, he got it. He got it then. Brothers got it. Little dude got it. We have bigger problems here in our own society where there's so much hatred and anger going around, But again, leave that LGBTQ propaganda at home, man. You can do all the flags you want at your house and your garage. I do the same thing. My garage looks cool, bro, with all my, my Trump won flags or my, don't tread on me flag or my, my whatever flag that you like to have. I never flown those flags outside of my house unless it was an American flag with the Dallas Cowboys on it. That was the only time I did anything that's not an American flag, but it still had an American flag. But, I never wave any other flag because that's not how I feel. You see these people that wave, that put the flag upside down. Oh, we're in distress. Blah, blah, blah. Well, leave, motherfucker. Leave if you're in distress. Right? Or they wave the black flag. I'm like, oh, now we're pirates. Right? Now all of a sudden we're pirates. We're a group of pirates in America.
Jolly Roger.
Well, that's for solidarity. I'm like, solidarity? You can't be more solidified in a country like America. And you want to solidify with a black flag? What is this, raid? You know what I mean? Are you killing bugs out there, buddy? Just like get rid of that. We have one flag and only one flag. That's that's old glory, baby. Red, white, and blue.
The stars and straps.
That's it, man. That's all I got to say about that. So,
Stars and straps.
Even Hurley knows. You know what I mean?
Right? Well, there's this saying, and everybody's heard it. It's hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And weak men create hard times. And then the cycle starts over. So right now we're at that point of history where we've had a bunch of weak men for the last 30, 40 years, right?
Yeah.
And they've created these hard times. And now it's going to take strong men that are coming out from the fold. And I got to tell you, a lot of it's going to be Gen Z, man. I'm telling you right now.
My hopes are millennials right now. My hopes are millennials because they're a little bit like us. You know what I mean? They've taken some for the Gen Xers. Baby boomers need to just get out of the marketplace right now. But mine are millennials. Some Gen Zs. I think Gen Zs are going to have a lot on their shoulders. I'm going to tell you that right now. Well, Gen Zs are going to have, because I think even like the millennials had a little bit of us. We raised them. You know what I mean? We raised those little punks, so they have a lot of us in them. But you know how most generations, they like to change a few things that we did, maybe that they didn't agree with or didn't like, created now these, the Gen Zers. And those guys are less like us, right? So, and less like the millennials and more like their own, whatever they grew up around Starbucks and cell phones and social media and all those things. So where's their truth come from? From those platforms, right? That's their scripture, and it's sad because like, that's all based off people just their opinions are expressed on social media and people take it and run with it as gospel. You see so many things like, oh my God, so and so died. You're like, no, he didn't. That's just, people like to create these things so they can get more hits on their page and get monetized and things like that. People don't get that. They'll create these false things. You even got like people who are Republicans writing stuff like, oh, Republicans are so this and that, and then they just, because they create that chaos, people get on their page and start making comments they're monetizing their pages, right?
Right.
And so that's all they're doing. They're lying to the American people. People are falling for it, and they're it's like the good old bait and switch. You know what I mean? And they don't get it. I just do it for entertainment purposes. I love it. I like to go in there, stir the pot, and then leave. You know what I mean? And that's
Hey,
it.
just smack the hornet's nest and get out.
Get out, bro. Run, bro.
Let
run.
everybody else deal with it.
But you know what thing that I've realized it's so funny? A lot of people don't talk smack back to me because I'm Mexican. And it's mostly on white people's pages that they're talking about this and this, freedom for this. And I go in there, I'm like, yeah, I'm Mexican. That never happened. And then they're like, nothing. Crickets.
Yeah.
I'm like, they probably think I'm like, oh my God, I'm Mexican. I'm a minority. Like, bro, I'm American. That's what I am.
Yep.
Yeah. You can't be more American than me.
Bleeding red, white, and blue. All right, y'all. Well, before we get out of here, make sure and smash that like button, subscribe to Outspoken, share the show with everyone you know, and hit that bell icon to get updated whenever we upload a new episode. Joe, it's been a good one.
It really was, man. Remember, guys, red, white, and blue, baby.
America.
Yeah.
Remember to take care of one another.
And do better. Be better.
And as always,
God bless America.
America.
We'll see you guys next week, man. Have a good week.
See you next Tuesday.